This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. We have got a lot to cover today, beginning with Israel's war against Hamas. Now, a freed Israeli hostage is describing his nearly 500 days in captivity, telling the United Nations Security Council, quote, "I've come back from hell." Our correspondent Chris Mitchell, who is in Jerusalem today, starts us off and tells us what's going on. Take a look.
My name is Eli Sharabi. I'm 53 years old. I've come back from hell. I've returned to tell my story.
Eli Sharabi, freed after 491 days in captivity, addressed the UN Security Council on Thursday.
I cannot begin to describe the agony. It was hell. I was fed a piece of pita a day, maybe a sip of tea. Hunger consumed everything. They beat me. They broke my ribs. I didn't care. I just wanted a piece of bread.
He also testified Hamas stole the humanitarian aid sent into Gaza.
I saw Hamas terrorists carrying boxes with the UN and UNRWA emblems on them into the tunnel. Dozens and dozens of boxes, paid by your government. They would eat many meals a day from the UN aid in front of us, and we never received any of it. When you speak of humanitarian aid, remember this. Hamas eats like kings, while hostages starve.
Sharabi, who dreamed of rebuilding his life with his wife and 2 daughters, learned that Hamas murdered them on October 7th. Israeli UN Ambassador Danny Dannon chastised the UN for ignoring Hamas's crimes against the captives.
For 530 days, you have erased the hostages. You have spoken about Gaza without mentioning the crimes of Hamas. You have debated humanitarian assistance without acknowledging the humanitarian crimes Hamas is deliberately inflicting on the hostages. You have had the audacity to talk about a ceasefire without demanding that those held in Hamas's terror tunnels be freed.
On the ground in Gaza, the IDF expanded its military operation. The White House continues its support for Israel.
This situation, let's not forget, is completely the fault of Hamas when they launched that brutal attack on Israel on October 7th. And the president has made it very clear that he wants all of those hostages to come home, and he fully supports Israel and the IDF and the actions that they've taken in recent days.
As the Houthis fired another ballistic missile towards Israel Thursday, the U.S. continues its air campaign to stop the Iranian-backed group from terrorizing Israel and the region. Meanwhile, in an unprecedented move, Israel's cabinet voted unanimously to fire the head of the country's domestic intelligence agency. Ronen Bar is the head of the Shin Bet, the equivalent of America's FBI. Netanyahu accused Bar of failing to warn the government in time about October 7th. As Iranians celebrated the Persian New Year of Nowruz, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke directly to the Iranian people.
May this be a year of servat, prosperity. Prosperity when you, the people of Iran, can finally enjoy Iran's rich natural resources, those resources that have been so long denied to you by an oppressive regime. A year of azadi, freedom, real freedom, freedom from oppression, freedom from want, freedom to live, freedom to choose. Chag Nowruz Sameach, happy Nowruz to all of you.
Chris Mitchell is joining us now from Jerusalem. Chris, what is the response in Israel to what the released hostages are saying? Pretty dramatic testimony right there at the United Nations.
Very dramatic, George. Horrified, and I think they really feel for Eli Sharabi, the compounded tragedy of not only being a captive for nearly 500 days, but his wife and 2 daughters were murdered. And he spent his captivity dreaming of a new life together. But Israelis overall, I think they're shocked by not only Eli's testimony, but the torture, sexual abuse, the starvation, and many of the hostages that have been released saying it wasn't just Hamas, but literally the population in Gaza was feeling the same way, either coming against them or torturing them. And so that's really been a horrific experience for Israelis as more and more captives are released in the last few months.
Chris, I'm curious, with these dramatic testimonies coming out, what is the debate inside the country about the current status of the war and also the remaining hostages?
Well, it's really a division right now, George, between many people here in Israel. Do we protect the citizens or the nations? And what price is worth it to free the hostages by also putting the rest of the nation at risk? For example, nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners have been released. Many of them have been convicted of murder, and historically, many of them go back to committing terror attacks. So what do you do when you put many other people here at risk? Israel's first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, he faced the same dilemma, George, back in 1948, and he believed the state had to be saved at all costs. For example, he had to decide between certain individuals or settlements. Could they be sacrificed for the state of the survival of the state? Many times they were controversial decisions, sometimes tragic. One of them was not too far from here. It was called Gush Etzion. It was a community that was under attack, and he really felt he had to abandon that for greater national objectives. So Netanyahu really facing some of the same decisions and dilemmas, whether or not hostages versus the safety of the state. And that's exactly why people need to be praying for wisdom for leaders here in Israel.
And to that very point about the safety of the state, the Houthis in the region fired off their second ballistic missile. You heard the warning sirens last night there in Jerusalem. Man, what was it like?
Well, George, I was sitting here getting a haircut, and then the alarm went off, the siren went off, and my barber said, "What do you want me to do?" Well, I don't mean to be cavalier about it, but we continued the haircut, and that's what some Israelis do. We know, thankfully, that most of these missiles have been shot down outside even of Israeli territory. This one was too. George, the siren was quite loud, but it's the dilemma many Israelis face throughout much of the country. What really hit Israelis the other day psychologically, that there were 3 rockets fired by Hamas the other day, and people would say, how could they fire more rockets? But it's also part of the psychological terror against the people of Israel, even more than the physical threat.
And the good thing is that the Israelis were able to intercept that incoming ballistic missile. You mentioned in your piece about the firing of Ronen Bar. Some Israelis are comparing this to what's happening to the Trump administration. Can you expand on that, please?
Well, it was an unprecedented decision. In comparison also to when Netanyahu fired Yoav Gallant, he's the former Israeli minister. And some people are comparing it to the Trump administration. The other day, we interviewed Alex Trayman. He's the head of the JNS News Bureau here in Jerusalem. And he says there's an entrenched bureaucracy and the intelligence, the media, academia, judiciary, even the military that's opposed to the current government and undermining the current government, working at cross purposes. So, and they have a different view of how we achieve the ends of the war. Do we want total victory? And so that's why Netanyahu says he had to make this firing, because they want to go to the, have a full victory over Hamas and its other enemies.
Yesterday, for Persians around the world, it was a very auspicious day. It was Nowruz, which is the start of the new year, the beginning, the welcoming of spring. Benjamin Netanyahu, not lost on his mind, he took to the airwaves with a direct message to the people of Iran. Tell us more about it.
Well, George, you know so much about the Iranian people and have reported on them over the years. He wants to connect to the people themselves, go around the regime. He believes change is coming to Iran. He would like to see and renew this ancient connection between the Persian people and the Jewish people, sort of like the Cyrus Accords. So he really has been doing this for years, continues to do it. He believes change is coming to Iran.
Okay, last question. What do you have on the new Jerusalem Dateline today?
Well, George, more updates. We have a story on the ACLI, American Christians Leaders for Israel, a resolution reaffirming Israel's right to Judea and Samaria, and also interviews with Ambassador Sam Brownback and former Congresswoman and now Dean of Regent University, Michelle Bachmann.
My goodness, my man, Chris Mitchell, churning out the great stuff and analysis. Thank you, brother. Stay safe to you and that entire beautiful team there in Jerusalem. We continue to pray for you. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief, Chris Mitchell, and we'll be looking forward to hearing from you again in the days ahead. You can see the latest Jerusalem Dateline at 8 p.m. Eastern on the CBN News channel. You can also watch it on the CBN News app or on YouTube. As the U.S. and Israel continue the fight against Hamas and other Iranian-backed proxies, some see a new strategic landscape taking shape. National security experts at the Heritage Foundation believe now is the time to reorient the U.S. relationship with Israel to, quote, an equal strategic partnership. CBN National Security Correspondent Caitlin Burke explains what that would look like.
The U.S. and Israel currently have what's considered a special relationship. First established by President Ronald Reagan in the 80s, every 10 years, the U.S. commits to a new Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, which lays out how much security assistance will be provided to Israel for its defense. The current MOU expires in 2028, and the experts at Heritage recommend using the opportunity to forge a new relationship.
We just celebrated the 75th anniversary of Israel, and we've had a relationship since the beginning, and we're instrumental in the founding of the state. Heritage wanted to chart a course for the next 25 years to get to the first 100-year anniversary.
In a new report, Heritage lays out a blueprint for expanding ties with Israel, taking the relationship from one of dependence to the kind of strategic partnership we have with only our closest allies.
Steps should be taken by Israel and the United States to ensure that Israel is autonomous and independent and not dependent on the United States for critical munitions.
As a part of the Heritage strategy, by 2048, foreign military financing would be replaced with foreign military sales. Former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, has been pushing for this kind of transition for years, calling Israel's reliance on U.S. weapons a sort of Achilles heel.
I was the only member of the Israeli government to vote against the Obama package of 2016-2017. Precisely for this reason. I thought that if we ever get into a war, someone's going to say to us, well, you're doing things that we don't like, and we're going to hold up ammunition. And that's just what Obama did during the 2014 battle between Israel and Hamas. And that had a big impact on me, I must say. And I thought, oh, if we're ever in a bigger war, this could become a much bigger problem. And in fact, it was.
Oren pointing to the pause of weapons by the Biden administration during Israel's current war on Hamas over concerns about IDF operations in Gaza. The former ambassador voiced support for the new Heritage strategy, which advises the Trump administration to use the next Memorandum of Understanding to begin advancing Israel's independence.
If in a Trump MOU, a large segment of that money would not be just for the acquisition of arms, but for building these cooperation programs, for investing in joint research institutions, staffs, that type of investment, I think, would be a very good use of that money.
Robert Greenway, the director of the Allison Center for National Security at the Heritage Foundation, says Washington should also continue to grow security and commercial ties between the Jewish state and its Arab neighbors.
If we can work with Israel to expand the Abraham Accords and reduce the threat from Iran, surrogates, and proxies, we could reduce the commitment on the Israeli side and the United States side for common defense. But we recognize that this is an aspiration, but it's something that we have to work together to accomplish. And we're putting a time horizon out there toward the 100th anniversary. So we're covering 25 years.
Greenway points to how Israel used to rely on U.S. economic assistance until a plan was put in place for that to end so Israel could flourish on its own. Now their economy is one of the highest performing in the Middle East. He expects the same to be true for defense. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, Caitlin. Coming up, cases of measles on the rise here in the United States with at least 2 deaths. We'll look at the growing concern over this outbreak when we come back. Welcome back. There is growing concern over the measles as cases continue to climb nationwide to more than 330 in 16 states, with around 40 people going into the hospital. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson tells us the largest outbreaks, by the way, are in New Mexico and West Texas, where one child passed away.
Measles, one of the most contagious viruses in the world, can be prevented with a vaccine. In fact, back in 2000, so many Americans were vaccinated that measles was considered eliminated. However, vaccine rates have fallen, leading to sickness, hospitalization, and even death. Workers at Covenant Medical Center in West Texas, one of the hardest hit areas, gather in the hospital chapel to pray. A 6-year-old unvaccinated girl died here, the first U.S. measles death in over a decade. The hospital has treated more than 20 other patients.
You see them struggling to breathe, they don't want to eat or drink.
Doctors recommend children get their first measles vaccine at 1 year old, then a booster at age 4. Adults can get them too.
There's no harm, even if they did receive those 2 childhood doses, in going out and getting a booster now as an adult.
The CDC says measles spreads in areas where kindergarten vaccine rates dip below 95%.
Do I trust all the vaccines? No. I'm not sure if they're always for my best.
This West Texas pastor says despite his vaccine hesitancy, he believes his congregants should decide for themselves.
With this measles situation, I can just honestly tell you that we haven't taken any steps as a church.
Well-known vaccine skeptic Robert Kennedy Jr. is now America's top health official. He said the current outbreaks are not unusual.
There have been 4 measles outbreaks this year. In this country last year, there were 16. So it's not unusual. We have measles outbreaks every year.
Kennedy previously linked the measles vaccine to autism.
It's disheartening to see people in power that are not willing to recognize the importance of vaccines, not willing to recognize the safety of vaccines. And it's discouraging for us who are on the front lines.
Despite several studies debunking any link between the measles vaccine and autism, Kennedy reportedly asked the CDC to look into it further. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Thanks, Lori. Still ahead, March Madness is here with the basketball playoffs, college basketball playoffs. We'll bring you a look at faith on the basketball floor right after this. Folks, welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. March Madness is here. The NCAA tournament tipped off this week, and the field of 68 teams is already down to 48, with 16 more games on the schedule today. Here at CBN News, we're also interested in the faith of these athletes. And joining me now to talk basketball brackets is CBN sports reporter Will Dawson. So, Will, you were recently with the #1 team in the country, the Auburn Tigers. What were they saying about winning a championship and sharing their faith?
Well, George, every time I'm on campus with some of these athletes, I'm always impressed by the amount of players that are willing to share their faith. And in fact, in speaking with the Auburn players, they were just as excited about the platform that they've been given as winning a championship.
I just want the biggest platform to spread the gospel and be a life for God. I trust about winning a championship, national championship. I just want to be there as a team, just so we can have that platform. That's the biggest platform in college basketball. It's 4 teams. And so everybody's watching, all of America's watching, and how great of an opportunity would it be for this team and for us to go and spread the gospel and be examples.
Okay,
How cool was that? That was Auburn center Dylan Cardwell. I also spoke with Auburn starting point guard Denver Jones and Chaney Johnson, who had 13 points yesterday in Auburn's opening round win in the NCAA tournament. Auburn is a team that is primed to go far in this one.
Okay, so Auburn is number 1. Who else are you keeping an eye on in this tournament?
Well, there's another young man that I spoke with earlier in the year. His name is Otega Owe. Otega's name literally means give God the highest praise. It's funny to look at a team like Kentucky as an underdog, but they are this year as a 3 seed. Otega's had a good run. And another guy that I'm also looking at is with Liberty. Liberty has a guy named Talon Peter, who played Division II basketball last year at Arkansas State or Arkansas Tech. But Talon is the leading scorer at Liberty. And what's most important to him is his faith. And another guy that you need to keep an eye on, they play Oregon tonight in the last game. I think they tip off at about 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Okay. Will, by the way, Will and the CBN sports team will be in San Antonio in 2 weeks for the Final Four. I'm curious, who do you think who will be there in the Final Four?
Well, I can't say that Auburn won't be there. Auburn's been the best team all season long. They stumbled a little bit down the stretch, but they've been the best team. I also think a team like Duke and Houston and Florida. So there's my Final Four right there for you, George.
All right, we'll keep you on that and have you back on the show and see if you came out swinging on those on those 4 predictions. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. By the way, for more faith and sports content, check out CBN Sports on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. You can follow them on Instagram at CBN Sports _. Will, thanks for coming on, bro.
Thank you, George.
You're welcome. Coming up, a unique way to bring the Gospel of John to college students. We'll have that story when we come back. Well, here's an interesting story. Christian students at Western Kentucky University got creative in spreading the gospel. Nearly 70 students wrote the Gospel of John in chalk along a 2-mile stretch of the campus. The students from Baptist Campus Ministry, Crew, and Hilltoppers for Christ wrote and illustrated all 21 chapters of John's Gospel. Holy Columbo. That's pretty cool. One student said, quote, "I pray this sparks a revival among our college campuses and Jesus will be made known." That's awesome. You can find out more about this story by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Folks, that is it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel anytime or online at cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. From all of us here, have a great Friday. Goodbye.